Hello, this is Intro to Blender. I'm going to show you some of the basics about Blender, how to manipulate objects, what a Blender offers. So this is just an intro. If you've done the Blender Basics course already, this is probably a lot of review, but this is my chance to show you a little bit about how I operate inside of Blender. So when you open up Blender, the splash screen here, it gives you a chance to select, things you built recently. You just click away, and then you're in the default scene. So default scene has three things: light source, a block or a cube, and a camera. So everything you need to render. So to render, you click render image, and then it will show you the cube, and it's popping up, and this is just showing you that everything is working. Everything's working right now. So exit, you just press F11 again, and you're back here. So we're going to change this cube so that it looks different. So to do that, we need to edit its vertices, or its edges, or its faces. Now, two edges or two vertices make an edge, and three or more edges can make a face. Okay, so let me show you what that means. So I'm in object mode now. I can click here and then switch to edit mode. What you'll find is that edit mode and object mode are practically separate programs. The menus in Blender are context sensitive, so when you're in object mode, you have certain things show up on your left. When you're in edit mode, those options change. Okay, so be aware, you might be looking for something and you can't find it. Well, you might be in object mode, or the other way. Oh, I can't find this. Well, maybe you need to try edit mode. So I'm in edit mode right now. This is where you actually change the object. When you're in object mode, you're just choosing between objects. You're not actually editing them. Also, a quick way to go between object mode and edit mode is hitting tab. Hit tab, you go between these things. Okay. So I'm in edit mode now, and what I'm going to do is manipulate some of these things. Scroll wheel goes zooming in and out. If you want to pan, you can hold down shift and then middle mouse wheel, and now you're panning. And if you let go of shift, middle mouse wheel is rotating your view. Okay. So that's just kind of what I'm doing when I'm moving around the camera. Okay. So we're going to select verts. So to select verts, you have to be in vertex select mode. So right here, you see these three options. One has a corner in orange, one has an edge in orange, one has a face in orange. This is edge or vertex, edge, and face select mode. So in vertex select mode, you select one vert at a time, and we click with our right mouse button in Blender. You can change that around so it's left mouse key select, but I prefer right mouse select because I find that if I have it set up the other ways where I select things with the left mouse button, I'll often select objects by accident. So if I have it set up, the default settings for Blender, I just find it works better for me. But you can change that under File, User Preferences, Input, just select with left. But I like it select with right. So anyways, select verts with the right mouse button. If you want to select multiple, you'll hold shift, and now you can select multiple. So selecting one vert, I'm going to pull on the blue handle, and what that does is it moves it along the z-axis. Blue is z-axis, red is x-axis, and then the green one is y-axis. So I can move that point like that. This is called a translation. It's moving a point left, right, up, down. It's just moving one point in space along an axis. Now if you just press G, it just kind of moves around wherever. Now it's not actually moving wherever, it's moving in relation to an axis which is set from the viewport. So what that means is there is an axis that we're moving it around, but you can't see it because it's just a random angle in my viewport. So that's not really good practice in my opinion. I like to move things using these handles so that I know where the object's going. I know what axis it's moving on. Okay, so there's the point. I just moved it. That's the funny thing. Let's see if we hit F11 if it changed at all. See, when we hit F11, it didn't change. And you're thinking, well, why didn't it change? Well, render image. Okay, there it goes. So the reason why I didn't is because I didn't update the render. So to update the render, you got to make sure you click render image. If you just press show hide render view, it'll just show the last rendered thing. Okay. So now you see we changed the geometry, and now the shape's changed in our render view. So that's vertex select. Now if you want to select an edge, there's two ways to do it. You can either select an edge by selecting two different verts, and then notice that that line between the verts is now orange, and so I've selected that edge in a way. But that's not really the most efficient way to do it in Blender. Blender, you can select edges by selecting edge select mode, and now you can just select the edge, okay, and then move that edge up and down, left, right, etc. Okay. So that's again a translation. You can, and again, you can either use these arrows or you can press G to drag it around. So then we have face select mode, which is right here. So you see these black dots, those represent the faces. So select an edge, drag it around the screen. Pause. Hello?
I don't want to know what you're doing, but do you know where I could go? Line sheet of paper?
Like this kind of paper?
Yes. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, I had a question. Okay, here we go. So anyways, you can select a face and move it around like that. Okay, so that's edge select. Now let's see our render again. So render image. Ooh, looking nice and pretty. Okay, pretty shape we got there. Okay, show hide render view. Okay, so that's face select. Okay, now what are these other transformations? We have talked about translate, which is you just kind of click these handles and move it, or you can press G. But what about this curve here? Well, this curvy line, that's rotate. So when you click rotate, you get another widget. This one is, it's pretty standard looking. You know, you'll see a similar one when you work in Unity. But the blue circle is rotating around the blue axis, the Z axis, right? The red one rotates the whatever's selected on the X axis. And the green, as you could probably guess, eek. Kind of hard to get to that green line. There we go. Yeah. When you get zoomed in, it gets awkward. Okay. But anyways, yeah, that green widget, that is I don't know why it's hard to select it. It just keeps moving my 3D cursor. The blue one works, but not that one. Anyways, that's like the downside of these widget things. Like I'm trying to click the green thing, the green circle, and I can't quite click it. It just keeps moving the 3D cursor. So instead, if I want to rotate on the y-axis, I can just say R, Y, and then rotate on the y-axis. Want to rotate on X, I just say RX, rotate on X. RZ, same thing, RZ. And lo and behold, the same thing works with translate. If I want to translate on the x-axis, I just say GX, and I'm moving x-axis. GY, I'm translating on x-axis. So you can combine using the keyboard shortcuts. And notice I didn't have to change this down here. It just was all handled through keyboard shortcuts. So you can do that. So R is rotate, G is translate, and then you can specify an axis by typing X, Y, or Z after that button. So RZ rotates Z, RY rotates Y. Okay, what do you think GX is going to do? Well, GX is going to translate on the X. So GX, translate on X. Okay. So there's one more, and that's scale. And scale is either multiplying or dividing all the values for the verts so that the objects gets bigger or smaller around the center of those components, like those verts. So if I have these 4 verts selected and I'm in scale, I think if there's something, if like you hold Shift, or is it Alt? Maybe I'm thinking Unity shortcuts, probably Unity shortcuts. But in Blender, if you want to scale something, you can press S and then scale it in all on X axes. If you want to scale just X, you say SX, SZ, scaling. Z-axis scaling. That almost looks like rotation, but that's just because of what we're doing. Okay, so that's scaling and rotating and translating. Now, if I wanted to play around with this, and I'm testing out the angles, I can let go with the left mouse button to save where I want it. But if I'm in the middle of dragging and if I right click in the middle of holding down that left mouse button, it cancels out that operation. So that's how you undo things in Blender. You right click instead of left clicking in the middle of that transformation, and then it won't save what you're doing. Okay, so that is how you manipulate verts, edges, and faces in Blender. Those are those 3 basic transformations. Now I'm going to take these skills that I've learned, and I'm going to turn this cube back into a cube. And just render image. This is where we're at right now. That's pretty ugly. And you see these triangles here, which I didn't see my scene view. That's because quads, the 4 corners, quadrilaterals, the 4 corners, they don't actually, computers don't actually render things in quads. They render things in triangles. So if you have a face that doesn't make sense, if there's only one face between these 4 points and these 2 points aren't lined up with these 2 points, you end up with is triangles showing when you actually render it. Anyways, I'm going to fix all this now. So I go render, show hide render view, and what I'm going to do now is fix this. So I'm not going to explain everything I do, but I'm going to use all the same kind of tools we just did. So I'm going to do this all in edit mode. I'm going to do edge select. So I'm going to select these 4 edges, and oh yeah, I said I wouldn't talk, so here I go. Maybe I'll say what I'm doing. S, X, 0. SX 0. SY 0. Oh, I had a funny face thing happening there. Okay, that was another SY0. Now I'm going to fix the top. SZ0. Bottom's already good. And then I'm going to press 1 to get a sideways view. I'm going to press 5 to go in orthogonal mode. And I'll talk about that more probably when I do videos on how to work with background images. And then I'm going to click the X-ray select and probably do circle select, which is pressing C. Good vertex mode for this part. Select these. So I just selected all 4 of those, and then get back into side view. And I'm going to select everything, and I'm just going to center it here. And then I'm going to SZ until it lines up with my grid, and then SX. And then deselect. So base, ooh, that doesn't look right. That's just not right. Like this. There we go. That looks more like a cube. Now if I render image, ta-da! So anyways, go ahead and play around in Blender, and if you want to try to do what I did, sort of with the cube, that's just a good way to practice. So that's the intro video. Sorry if that was a little long-winded. If you have questions, please let me know in class or on Canvas. Thank you.